Just 5 hours before my engagement party, my stepmom sprayed an allergic chemical directly onto my face. I screamed in pure pain as the burning liquid hit my skin. My face instantly broke out in horrible, red, swollen blisters right before my big moment. My stepmother stood behind me, cold and smiling, just because I refused to give her the $10,000 I saved for my wedding for her facelift surgery. She thought she completely ruined my face and stole my future. But 10 minutes later, a loud knock at the door delivered a secret legal letter, and her cruel smile completely froze. My name is Chloe, and until today, I always thought that keeping the peace was the right thing to do. I grew up in a beautiful, warm home with my dad. My mom passed away when I was just 12 years old, and after that, it was just the two of us against the world. My dad was an incredibly hardworking real estate attorney. He wasn't a loud man, but he was wise, kind, and he lived his life with real dignity. He did everything he could to make sure I felt loved, safe, and protected. For a very long time, our lives were quiet, happy, and completely peaceful. But everything changed 5 years ago when my dad met Victoria. At first, Victoria seemed like a sweet, caring woman. She smiled all the time, brought me thoughtful gifts, and promised my dad that she would love me like her own daughter. My dad was lonely, and more than anything, I just wanted him to be happy. So I welcomed her into our house with open arms. I truly believed she would bring joy back into our lives. But the moment the wedding ring was on her finger, her sweet mask completely slipped off. Victoria didn't care about our family at all. She only cared about money, status, and herself. She was incredibly vain and selfish. Slowly, she started changing everything. She pushed my dad to buy her an expensive luxury SUV, demanded weekly trips to high-end spas, and treated the people around her like tools for her social climbing. She looked down on me and made me feel like an unwanted guest in the very home I grew up in. She would pass by me in the hallway and give me these cold, judgmental looks, constantly criticizing my clothes, my hair, and my choices. I stayed quiet because I loved my dad and didn't want to cause tension. But the atmosphere in our house became completely toxic. I just didn't realize how far her cruelty would actually go until it was too late. My whole world completely shattered 2 years ago when my dad passed away from a sudden heart attack. I was completely broken, crying in my room for days, unable to even process the loss. But instead of comforting me or showing any emotion, Victoria immediately moved to take over everything. Only 3 days after the funeral, while I was still wearing my black mourning clothes, she sat me down at the kitchen table with a stack of fake bills. She looked me dead in the eye and told me that my dad had left the family finances in total ruin. She claimed there was no money left anywhere, and that if I wanted to keep living in my childhood home, I had to pay my share immediately. Because I was grieving and wanted to protect my dad's memory, I believed her. I was working 60 hours a week as a graphic designer, exhausting myself just to keep up with her demands. Every single month, Victoria demanded exactly $1,200 in cash from me, claiming it was for property taxes and house maintenance. I was handing over my hard-earned paychecks while she spent her days getting expensive facials, buying designer clothes, and driving the luxury SUV my dad had bought her. I sacrificed absolutely everything. I stopped going out with friends, skipped buying new clothes, and drove an old rusting sedan that barely started in the mornings. Whenever I asked to see the actual utility bills or tax papers, Victoria would fly into a rage, calling me ungrateful and reminding me that I was living in her house under her charity. I tolerated her emotional abuse and constant insults for 2 straight years, working myself to the bone just to keep the peace. I didn't want to lose the only physical connection I had left to my dad, this beautiful house. But my quiet compliance only made her more greedy, and she began to view my hard-earned savings as her own personal bank account. She truly believed that because my dad was gone, she had absolute power over me, and that I would just keep taking her abuse forever without ever standing up for myself. The real breaking point arrived 3 months ago when my wonderful boyfriend, Austin, proposed to me. He held my hand, looked into my eyes, and asked me to spend the rest of my life with him. For the first time since my dad passed away, I felt true, genuine happiness. We didn't want a massive, flashy wedding. We just wanted to celebrate our love, So we decided to plan a modest engagement party right here at the house with our closest friends and family. To pay for the wedding dress, the catering, and our future together, Austin and I worked extra hours and saved every single penny until we had exactly $10,000 sitting safely in my bank account. Instead of being happy for me, Victoria became completely bitter and angry. She couldn't stand the fact that the attention was going to be on me for one day. As the date of the party got closer, she became utterly obsessed with her own appearance. She kept staring at herself in the mirror, complaining about her wrinkles, and saying she couldn't let our high society guests see her looking old. Just 5 hours before my engagement party, while I was upstairs in my bedroom getting my dress ready, Victoria walked in without even knocking. She didn't look at my dress, and she didn't congratulate me. Instead, she sat on my bed, crossed her arms, and demanded that I hand over the $10,000 Austin and I had saved. She told me she had booked a high-end surgeon for a deep plane facelift and needed the cash immediately. I looked at her in absolute disbelief. I told her calmly but firmly, "No, Victoria, that money is for my wedding. I worked 60 hours a week for that, and I am not giving it away for your plastic surgery." The moment the word no left my mouth, her face contorted with pure, ugly rage. She stood up and yelled, "You ungrateful little brat! Everything in this house belongs to me. You owe me that money." When she realized I wasn't backing down, she did something truly evil. She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a small spray bottle. It was a concentrated botanical oil, a severe cosmetic allergen that she knew I was violently allergic to. Before I could even react or run away, she stepped forward and sprayed the chemical directly onto my face. The burning sensation was instant and terrifying. It felt like someone had poured boiling acid onto my skin. I dropped to my knees, clutching my face, and screamed in pure pain as the liquid sank in. Within seconds, my skin began to blister. Horrible, red, swollen welts and painful bumps erupted across my cheeks, my forehead, and around my eyes. Victoria just stood over me, looking down with a cold, cruel smile. She casually tossed the empty bottle back into her purse and said, "Let's see how pretty you look at your party now." Then she walked out of the room, closed the heavy wooden door, and locked it from the outside, leaving me trapped in the dark, screaming in absolute agony. I lay on the floor for what felt like an eternity, pressing my face against the cold hardwood to stop the burning. The physical pain was unbearable, but the emotional pain was even worse. My own stepmother had intentionally disfigured me on the happiest day of my life, all because of her sick greed. Suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps running up the stairs. It was Austin. He had arrived early for the party and heard my muffled cries. He rattled the doorknob, realizing it was locked from the outside. "Chloe, are you in there? What's wrong?" he shouted, his voice filled with panic. "Austin, help me! She locked me in!" I screamed back, my voice cracking. Without hesitating, Austin threw his entire weight against the heavy wooden door. With a loud crash, the lock broke and the door flew open. He rushed into the room, but the moment he looked at me, he froze. His eyes widened in absolute horror. My face was completely unrecognizable, covered in thick, angry red blisters and severe swelling that was rapidly closing my left eye. "Oh my God, Chloe, what happened to you?" he gasped, kneeling down and gently grabbing my trembling hands. For a second, I wanted to hide. I wanted to cancel the party, call an ambulance, and run away from this house forever. But as Austin reached for his phone to call 911, a sudden wave of cold fury washed over me. The tears stopped, and my mind became incredibly sharp. I looked at the mirror, then looked back at Austin. "Don't call the ambulance yet," I said, my voice completely steady despite the pain. "Victoria did this. She wanted to ruin my face so I wouldn't go downstairs. She wants me to hide." I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead, stood up straight, and looked at Austin. "Get your phone out. Start recording a video of my face right now and make sure you get a close-up of the swelling. We are not hiding. It's time to show everyone exactly who she is." With Austin's phone still recording, I walked out of my bedroom. The burning on my skin was intense, and every step felt like a battle, but I refused to look down. As we walked down the grand staircase, I could hear the cheerful chatter of our early guests in the living room below. Victoria was down there, standing near the catering table, wearing a brand new designer dress. She was laughing loudly, acting like the perfect, elegant hostess. The moment I stepped into the bright lights of the living room, the laughter stopped instantly. A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the entire crowd. Our friends and relatives gasped in horror, staring at my severely swollen, blistered face. Victoria turned around, expecting to see me crying and humiliated, but when she saw me standing tall with Austin by my side, her eyes widened in shock. Before she could say a single word to spin her lies, a loud, aggressive knock echoed from the front door. Austin kept his camera rolling as he walked over and opened it. Standing on the porch was a uniformed legal courier holding a thick manila envelope, and right behind him was Mr. Harrison, my late father's trusted estate attorney. Victoria immediately tried to push her way past me, her voice shaking slightly as she tried to regain control of the room. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, trying to sound offended. "We are having a private family event. Please leave immediately." Mr. Harrison didn't move an inch. He looked at Victoria with an expression of pure disgust, then looked at me and nodded gently. He handed the thick envelope directly to Victoria. "This is a certified legal notice from your late husband's estate," Mr. Harrison announced clearly, his voice echoing through the silent room so every single guest could hear. "Open it, Victoria, now." With trembling hands, Victoria tore open the envelope. She pulled out a legal document with my father's official signature and seal at the bottom. As her eyes scanned the bold text at the top of the page, the smug, superior look on her face completely vanished. Her skin turned deathly pale. This is impossible," she whispered, her hands shaking so violently that the paper rattled loudly in the quiet room. "He left the house to me. It's my house." "Read the engagement clause, Victoria," I said, stepping forward so everyone could see my injured face. My father knew exactly what kind of greedy woman she was. He had secretly hidden an ironclad trust clause in his will. The house was never hers. She was only allowed to live here temporarily until the exact day I got engaged. The very moment Austin put that ring on my finger, ownership of the entire property automatically transferred completely to me. Victoria stood in the center of the room, completely frozen, staring at the legal document like she had seen a ghost. But the trap my father set for her wasn't finished yet. Mr. Harrison stepped forward, adjusted his glasses, and pointed directly at the bottom clause of the paper. "There is also a strict moral forfeiture stipulation, Victoria. If you ever caused Chloe physical or emotional harm, your monthly living stipend would be permanently canceled, and you would be required to leave the premises immediately." Victoria tried to laugh it off, turning to the shocked guests. "This is ridiculous. I haven't done anything to her. She must have had an allergic reaction to some bad makeup." "Is that so?" Austin said loudly. He walked over to the large living room television, connected his phone, and hit play. Instantly, a crystal-clear video filled the screen. It showed my blistered, swollen face just minutes after the attack, and then zoomed in on the empty chemical bottle Victoria had left right outside my door. The guests erupted into angry whispers. The evidence was undeniable. Mr. Harrison handed her a final paper. "You have exactly 24 hours to pack your bags and vacate this property. If you are still here tomorrow afternoon, the police will escort you out for trespassing." Victoria completely broke down, realizing her greed had cost her everything. She didn't get her $10,000, she lost her luxury lifestyle, and her reputation was completely destroyed in front of everyone she knew. Today, Austin and I are happily married, and the swelling on my face is completely gone. I am sitting on the porch of the beautiful home my father built, knowing that justice was served and that this house finally belongs to me.